Yeah, the series is one which represents basically the work that I've done with life drawing, which is a major component of my work, my history. Starting in college, I loved doing gesture drawing and life drawing in general, and got back into that the last 10 years or so since I've been a fine artist. I was attending classes at the Nepean Sportplex, taking life drawing there and loved it. And then I ran a class for a couple of years. And on the flip side, the abstract represents my love of color and design and feeling. I like to get mood, feeling, color, to try to mesh them all together, as I do with my life drawings. But with life drawings, or the paintings as they become, those are a little bit more of a story. So that's more or less the two. One is a little bit more about drawing, telling a story with certain amounts of color and abstraction, but keying in on the feeling, whereas abstract is just pure design, composition, and color. And they're both wonderful. I enjoy them so much. I can't stop doing figure painting and love doing abstract and abstract landscape. Yes. Well, my process, for example, with light drawing, I do a very quick sketch, and then I go quickly to drawing the positive shapes with red or orange or solid color. Then I come back with the negative shapes around the figure, and I work the two together. And first of all, though, I try to build a bit of a scene, so it's very pleasing. It tells a story, creates a mood. Then I draw the negative and positive imagery and just work it back and forth. Put a big coat on, work very quickly, put it aside, let it dry off. Then I come back and then do another coat or two. With the abstract, it works much the same way, but without the imagery. With abstract, I try to think about 2 or 3 key colors, build a quick design, and then I just go crazy. It changes all the time. I can leave a pretty nice looking abstract overnight, come back in the morning, have my coffee, look at it and go, ah! Or it isn't quite there. And then I basically redo the whole thing. So it's a little bit more of an inexact science, and you just want to capture the mood, the style, and get a really good, solid, beautiful painting that appeals to you. And it has that certain something. And hopefully you know that when you finally get it. Yes, I have a copious amount of photos that I've taken, and I also look online to get photo reference. I print them out very, very small on paper like this and put them to the side, and then I use those as my reference and build the scene up. I basically get as much meaning as I can from a little photograph, and then I move it up to the big size, paint it big, and just try to create a whole different feeling, mood. And inevitably, when I look at my figure drawings, I do feel that there's a lot of subliminal feelings that I have that come out, and they're infused in the painting. And I hear that a lot from people, and they are definitely a little bit more emotional. I'm a very emotional guy, and I think they do come out in my paintings, even though I work at them with composition and color. They end up for sure with sort of the story behind them. When I was in college, I always appreciated the gesture drawings, the really quick feeling, the looseness, the raw quality of the gesture drawing. And I found that when I worked up bigger or longer poses, inevitably they'd be tighter and less animated, more studied, and they lost that spontaneity and freshness that I really love. So I try to capture that loose quality in my big paintings, and I use big brushes, rollers, scrapers, palette knives. I have about 30 palette knives, and I like to work fast and furiously, but to get that fresh quality. So that's why I like to work with my figure drawings, rather than getting totally exact with the proportions and everything else. I just want to get more of the feeling and the life from the life drawings or paintings. I think the abstracts come from my background in graphic design and my love of just putting shapes down. And you do a layout for a magazine ad, you have to work with certain components. With abstracts, you can pull in anything that you want. You key on the color, the composition, and that's basically where I go with the abstracts. I remember, in terms of tools, walking through a Home Depot one day, and I saw these big wallpaper scrapers, and I thought, oh wow, these are really cool. So I've got about 8 of these things, and I like to pull colors across initially. I used to use them a little bit more than I do now, but I love the feeling of the blended color, and using numerous glazes really gives the color luminosity. And I think layering in color glazes, that's the biggest learning curve I had as a painter, was just how colors work together. So I find it fascinating every time I start a painting. I look at it almost like a puzzle, like you have say a crossword puzzle, or you have a blank page, and you try to solve that puzzle, work the elements together where it brings out a certain style, great colors, composition, and feeling, and it works together in unison to make a good painting. Life in color, that, for me, I love both life drawing, life painting, painting the figure, telling stories, and using color in a subtle way, but it's a little bit more drawing, and drawing was always such a natural thing for me to do. I thrived in drawing classes. I loved doing that. And whereas color, more the abstraction, that is just bringing to life all the color from my background as well, more the graphic design and building shapes and textures and using tools of all kinds to build something that doesn't exist. It's never really existed anywhere else. You start from nothing. They're not necessarily based on any imagery. Sometimes when I do the more landscapes, of course, those are much more realistically based, but at this show I've got more pure abstracts, and those are the result of years of sort of design, composition, color, and using, I've got so much paint in my studio, it's just like a big laboratory, and I'm constantly mixing things together and brewing them and seeing what comes of it, and it's sort of like a big adventure. So it's a little bit different from the life, but the color part of it is a little bit more wild and woolly. The life is more grounded in reality, but they're both so much fun to do.